Hello, I'm going to walk you through assembling Millenium Force nanocoasters by Coasterdynamix. Let's open the box and see what we got inside. Uh-oh, looks like we've had some parts detached during shipping. That's okay, I'll show you how to handle that. Before pulling them out of the box, take this extra flap and pull this out. This will help get the parts out without snagging it all over each other. So we'll pull it out. Looks like quite a few has come detached. I see there's some bent tabs. Carefully uncurl them. And now I'm going to use the back of a mechanical pencil, just any flat metal object, and I'm pressing against the table. I'm kind of using a circular motion to flatten the pieces back out. And that should get rid of any unwanted creases or bends. This will also be a good time to show you at the bottom of each piece there's a number stamped, and this is the order in which you will assemble the coaster. So we've got number 1 there. Oh, another piece. This is actually number 5. May be hard to find, but you'll see the number along the header of the tab right there. There are 2 numbers at the bottom of each piece. For example, on this one, you've got a 3 and then you've got a 4. That will help you determine which way the piece faces in the base. For example, oh, another piece is coming out. Well, maybe I won't have to show you how to take these out of the entire sprue. For example, this piece has a number 1 at the bottom here and a number 7 at the bottom here. And that tells me that this goes between the lift hill and the final turn. Now we've got plexiglass bases, and one side will have the track layout etched on it. The other side will be just flat. So remove the paper off of these bases. If you don't have fingernails, a little pocket knife or tweezers should be able to help. But once you get it started, it comes off very easily. And if you start at a sharp point, you can generally roll your finger across the point and a little tab of paper will come up that will let you grab it pretty easily. Okay, we have our completed bases. Remember, the etched side is going to be the track side. Now these are dovetailed to fit together pretty snugly. But to help keep this together, I've flipped the model over. So track layout is facing the table. I'm going to use a couple of spots of super glue to help keep this joint together. I'm getting my flow started over some scrap paper so I don't get a big blob all over the model. You don't have to worry about getting this down in the crack. It will pull itself down in between the pieces very well. Now we're going to let that dry. Okay, our glue has dried and we can continue forward. We're going to find the piece that has a number 1 on it. And this also has a number 2. Now, you can also use the picture on the back of the box as a reference while you're building. Make sure that you line your tabs up with the holes in the slots in the base. There are wide parts along the bottom here that fit completely into the opening, and the whole unit will sit flat when it's properly aligned. So here you can see there are no pieces of the wide spot is visible, completely flush with the base. And remember to follow the track line as you bend your piece. Once that piece has been set in place, carefully bend the tabs on the back 90 degrees. I am pushing down on the track with my thumb as I bend the piece with my finger. You do not need a lot of force to hold it in place, just enough to make sure it's flat. And then for added measure, I take the piece and I push it against the table. So we've done piece number 1, 2. Now we need to find piece that's number 2, 3. And here on this piece, we have a number 2 and a number 3. Now this piece I'm going to do a little bit of pre-bending just because that's kind of a big turn there. And I don't want to have to fight it as I put it in. So again, you can see the tab will not fit in until you're aligned properly, and then it will sit flush. And as I'm going along, I'm bending the tab at the bottom at 90 degrees. Now some of these tabs are very small. There are holes there for them. I don't know if you can see holes here and here, but those are for these itty bitty single tabs. And now while this piece is in place, I'm going to look down along the track that's etched on the plastic and adjust my bends in the metal so that it matches. So I've just done piece 2 to 3. Now I'm looking for 3 to 4, which is this piece right here. I've got a 3 and then a 4. You'll see the different widths. Got the tab and this piece above the tab, which will fit down in the large cuts, and that's to help you put the piece in correctly. If you tried to put it in this way, some of the tabs might line up, but not all of them will. So that tells you that this piece is going in improperly. So make sure you've got your tabs lined up with the slots. And I'm gonna smooth out. I kind of crease the metal a little as I put that piece in. So I'm gonna smooth this turn out so it looks a little bit better. So now we're looking for 4 to 5. We've got numbers 4 and 5 here. The piece I'm about to put in is this helix right here, and it crosses under. So I'm going to start by placing it under flat at a slight angle to get it in there. And then I'm going to start bending it as I turn it around. We're going to lock one piece in place first. And now we're going to work around the circle. As before, bend your tabs once you've got them in place. And now I'm going to go back through and clean up my circle a bit. So next we need piece number 5 and 6. So make sure you're putting a wide tab into a wide slot. Even though the narrow tab fits in, it's not correct. And again, I'm going to pre-bend this one because this has a pretty radical turn. Now what I'm doing is I'm making a lot of small bends to make this turn. I'll edit that out. Probably won't. Now we've got another piece that crosses under right here. And we're going to bring that in an angle to get that through there. And now I'm going to go in and fix my curve. I bent out one of the legs as I was manipulating the piece. So you could carefully bend that back where it's supposed to go. I'm using the etched track line as a guide as to how to correct the bends in the track. And then we get piece number 6 to 7. And I can see this has a turn right about here. Now I want to show with this piece, we've got a slot here, a pretty long slot, and then we've got these 2 shorter slots. The track, if you look carefully along the edge, goes with that longer slot. So make sure to put the track into the longer slotted piece. And now our last piece of track. This is what I wanted to show you earlier. In order to get these out, you have to bend the piece back and forth, but do it in small increments because you don't want to crease the track. So I've got a connection right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bend this in small moves back and forth. It eventually breaks free. And then at the end, you've got 2 pieces connecting at the end. So don't rip it, just make sure to bend the track back and forth. It eventually breaks itself free. And so this is that final piece with the number 7 and the number 1. And so this number 1 will line up back with our original number 1 here. Now those 2 slots that I told you about, the small slots behind the lift hill, that is for this piece here, which is going to be the station. And you'll see there's an etched side to the metal and a smooth side. You want the etched side to be on the surface. Now this piece is very delicate, so rather than bending the piece, I'm bending the metal around it. So this guy, you're going to bend the roof in half and then the walls of the station you bend down as such until you get a in view that looks something like this. And it may need to be adjusted. So I'm going to line this up with those 2 slots. And I could see that I need to pull in the sides just a little bit and kind of raise the roof just a tiny bit. So that looks a bit better right there. So I'm going to hold that in place. I'm going to bend the tabs on the bottom outward in opposite directions. So we have the completed layout of Millenium Force as a nano coaster.